Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our final concert of the season. Thank you for all coming. Thank you for entertaining our change in venue, but I'm sure you appreciated being indoors instead of being in the hot out there. So, yeah, we can applaud at that. We all enjoy that piece of it. A few acknowledgments tonight. The first one is I want to acknowledge the orchestra. These are all volunteer musicians. And if you've been to the last two concerts or any of our concerts, you recognize how amazing they are. But what you don't know is that they put all this together in just 4 rehearsals. Each concert is just 4 rehearsals and they're kind of marathon session rehearsals. But they do a great job. And Richard Ryan, our conductor, is just an amazing guy. We want to thank him as well for what he's been doing for us over the past year. We'd like to acknowledge a few other people. Community Covenant Church, the people who provide this facility to us. This is a great place to have a concert. Acoustics are great, and it's air conditioned, which is nice. We want to thank our sponsors tonight. They have booths outside that you can take. One is Renewal by Anderson, and then Thermo King Windows, at opposite ends of the thing. We want to thank the Shawnee Mission West schools, Shawnee Mission West High School, and Westford School for the use of some of the instrumentation that we have here. We have to borrow a lot of the stuff that we do. We borrow a lot of things. It's also the hard-working backs of the volunteers who bring this together. It kind of takes an army of people to get this thing going every Saturday. We get to pack up a truck and bring it over here, unpack it, and at the end of the day we load it back up again. So there's a lot of volunteers, and I want to thank them. We have photographers that help us out. We want to thank the governing body of Lenexa and the mayor of Lenexa for affording us the support that they do, not only for this arts program, but for a variety of the other things that we do over the course of the year. And a couple of those things that are coming up, just to pitch them while I have the microphone and you can't take it away. We have a new art gallery show coming up this week. It's the 28th annual Lenexa Artist Show at City Center. We have the City Center Art Walk, which is an art walk around City Center that's coming up on September 12th. September 13th, we have the next rendition of City Center Live, and that will be the Abel Ramirez Big Band on the outdoor stage. And then we'll be kicking off the second half of our outdoor concerts at Sarko Park on September 15th. If you want to learn about any of those or all the stuff that the Lenexa Arts Council is doing, please visit the City Lenexa website. And if you are interested in contributing to Lenexa Arts Council and the stuff that we do, there's an opportunity on that website to do that as well. Okay, I'll stop talking, and without further ado, our last concert of Lenexa Community Orchestra.
Thank you all so much for coming to our third concert of the summer and final concert. We pour our heart and soul into preparing these concerts for you. And the secret to all of this is that in the relationship between the musicians and the audience, we don't, at our heart of hearts, do this for you. We do it for us. Because to play this music is amazing. And that's why we all give our time and energy and heart in order to make this happen. And I hope that in doing so that you guys come along on the ride with us and enjoy it just as much as we do. So thank you very much for that. That first piece, of course, Beethoven's Overture to Egmont, which was a play written by Goethe. And Beethoven wrote the incidental music for that play. And the themes of that play are about a count, the Count of Egmont during the Napoleon Wars. And it's basically about a heroic sacrifice of a man who's been condemned to death, but in doing so, he takes a valiant stand against oppression. And Goethe said that he thought that Beethoven captured the essence of the play perfectly with that overture. And I agree. The next piece we're playing by Aaron Copland. So, wait, I want to explain just a little bit. So, we have an all-American program, except for Beethoven. Not an American. But 2020 is the 250th anniversary of Beethoven's birth, and we wanted to mark that occasion. And if you liked what you heard here tonight, I urge you to please look at the Beethoven Festival that the Kansas City Symphony is doing this year. We're performing many of Beethoven's most famous works in celebration of his life and his work, and I hope you all will take advantage of that. But the rest of our program is all 20th century American composers. Aaron Copland was highly influential and responsible for defining what the American music sound was. And in this ballet, Billy the Kid is about the Wild West. And within that story, it's the story of Billy the Kid's birth and life, becoming an outlaw and being caught. And we're playing two scenes from this ballet, Prairie Night and Celebration Dance. And the Prairie Night is subtitled A Card Game at Night. So I hope that we can evoke the calmness and sereneness of the prairie. And the second vignette that we're doing from the ballet is Celebration Dance, which is the dance of the villagers who are so happy after Billy the Kid is caught and is going to be hanged. So because of that, the tone of the piece is very sarcastic, because Billy the Kid himself is an anti-hero, but he's the protagonist of the ballet, even though he's an outlaw. So the audience maybe isn't supposed to feel so happy that Billy the Kid was caught. So enjoy Prairie Night Celebration Dance by Aaron Copland. The next piece we're doing is kind of a special project. If this music that we're playing, Virgil Thomson's Suite from the Plow That Broke the Plains, it was a soundtrack to a film that was commissioned by the U.S. government in the 30s to make a record of what had happened during the disaster of the Dust Bowl. And if you haven't seen this film, it was named as a historically, culturally, or aesthetically important work, so it was preserved in the U.S. National Film Registry. And you can find it online and watch it for free. It's only about 25 minutes long, and it's kind of interesting. But the music from this, Virgil Thomson was actually born in Kansas City, and he was a very important American composer. He was a mentor to many of the tonal composers of the 20th century, like Leonard Bernstein. And he was a figure of American art in Paris in the 20s during that great artistic period. And he was known for being one of the voices that defined the American art music sound. And but believe it or not, when he was a young man, he was the organist at Grace Church in Kansas City, which is now Grace and Holy Trinity Cathedral. So he has a lot of ties to this local area, and I think his work should be celebrated by us. This is an interesting program, interesting project that we're doing, because for the first time we have a guest soloist with us. And for tonight, that is our narrator for the evening, Mr. Andy Huckabee.
This is the record of land, of soil rather than people, a story of the Great Plains, the 400 million acres of windswept grasslands that spread up from the Texas Panhandle to Canada, a high, treeless continent without rivers, without streams, a country of high winds and sun, and of little rain. The grasslands, a treeless, windswept continent of grass, stretching from the broad Texas Panhandle up to the mountain reaches of Montana and to the Canadian border. A country of high winds and sun, without rivers, without streams, and with little rain. First came the cattle, an unfenced range 1,000 miles long, an uncharted ocean of grass. The southern range for winter grazing and the mountain plateaus for summer. It was a cattleman's paradise, up from the Rio Grande, in the rolling prairies, down clear from the eastern highways. The cattle rolled into the old buffalo range. For a decade, the world discovered the grasslands and poured the cattle into the plains. The railroads brought markets to the edge of the plains. Land syndicates sprang up overnight, and the cattle rolled into the west. Then we reaped the golden harvest. Then we really plowed the plains. We turned under millions of new acres for war. We had the manpower. We invented new machinery. The world was our market. By 1933, old grasslands had become the new wheat lands. 100 million acres, 200 million acres, more wheat. A country without rivers, without streams, with little rain. Once again, the rains held off and the sun baked the earth. This time, no grass held moisture against the winds and sun. This time, millions of acres of plowed land lay open to the sun. Baked out, blown out, and broke. Year in, year out. Uncomplaining, they fought the worst drought in history. Their stock choked to death on the barren land. Their homes were nightmares of swirling dust, night and day. Many went ahead of it, but many stayed until stock, machinery, homes, credit, food, and even hope were gone. On to the west. Once again, they headed into the setting sun. And once again, they headed west, out of the Great Plains and hit the highways for the Pacific coast, the last border. Blown out, baked out, and broke. Nothing to stay for, nothing to hope for. Homeless, penniless, and bewildered, they joined the great army of the highways. No place to go, no place to stop. Nothing to eat, nothing to do. Their homes on four wheels, their work a desperate gamble for a day's labor in the fields along the highways. Price of a sack of beans or a tank of gas. All they ask is a chance to start over and a chance for their children to eat, to have medical care, to have homes again. $50,000 a month. The sun and the winds wrote the most tragic chapter in American agriculture.
promise the next piece is a little bit more cheerful, I promise. You know, Henry Cowell might not be a household name, but he should be, because that's how influential he was in American music. He was known as being a pioneer of trying new things, of being unbound by the traditional limitations placed on art music, and he went way outside the box in inventing new ways of playing instruments, new concepts of rhythm and tonality. And Virgil Thompson, the composer of the last piece, actually said about him, no other composer of our time has produced a body of works so radical and so normal, so penetrating and so comprehensive. Add to this massive production his long and influential career as a pedagogue, and Henry Cowell's achievement becomes impressive indeed. Now, the piece that we're about to play for you doesn't really sound avant-garde, it doesn't sound out there, but think of this hymn and fuguing tune, which is a traditional English form where a hymn in 4 parts is sung, and then the 4 parts then sing in a round, in a fugue, separate from each other, but intertwined. So a very traditional art form, and Cowell thought to himself, you know, what if we could make this, what if American music had gone down this path? What if American music sounded like this? What would it sound like? And he kind of created an experiment. He wrote many of these hymn and fuguing tunes in different formats. This one for full orchestra. It's extremely beautiful, and I hope you all go home and listen to some music by Henry Cowell after this. saw some people sneaking out. That's okay, but they're going to miss something pretty great. But they might actually be able to hear it out there in the lobby, so it might not make a difference. But our final piece on our program is the most famous work by the King of Marches, John Philip Sousa. And this is, in fact, the official march of the United States. So get your patriotic on. And I'd just like to thank everybody from the city of Lenexa, Parks and Rec Department who has helped us out, and the Lenexa Arts Council. Without you, this wouldn't be happening. And thank you to all my musicians who've worked so hard in rehearsal and have made beautiful music. Can we all give them one more round of applause? Without further ado, here's the Stars and Stripes Forever.